Back in '07, Favre came in here, and I asked him how many of the Bears starting quarterbacks during his tenure he could remember. There were 21 of them. Unless my counting is off, there's been 16 during your time as the starter. Do you think we could take a crack at naming all 16, given your memory?
Counting playoffs?
Counting playoffs.
It's not the same one, not counting.
I think it's the same
Yeah, I could get close probably. Jay Cutler,
one.
Kyle Orton,
2,
Rex Grossman.
3,
Oh. Mitch.
4.
That's about it.
What did you say?
That's about it.
I just gave up.
Giving up. I got a meeting to go to, man. Can't rack the memory banks. Actually, Tom, he already queued me up, so I know him. I just didn't want to show off. Thanks, Tom.
No, what?
The other quarterbacks. Yeah, thank you. 16?
Since you quit, which I wasn't really expecting, when you look at what your buddy Farby was able to do and what you've been able to do, and you look at your record as a team during this era and theirs, does that just speak to what a difference it makes to have not only a good quarterback, but consistency at the position on years on years on years?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was looking at the all-time series when Favre started, and then when I started, and I think Favre was 22-10-ish, I think, and we won 22 out of 27 that I've played in, started. Yeah, we've had a good run. Obviously, I think that's why, like yesterday, I talked about, the main focus, I think, for so many of these coaches' press conferences in Chicago is beating the Packers, because we've had the upper hand for the last stretch with Favre and I. It's been battles, though. I mean, it's still a rivalry, still some great back-and-forth games, only once in the playoffs during that time, but definitely had some battles, some cold weather battles, some miserable games, like the 15 game and the 07 game. And the 8 game was pretty cold, too, down there. Yeah, some great players in those games. I've been fortunate enough to play against, play with. I love the stadium down there. It's a great venue. They've done a better job with the grass over the last few years. But I remember distinctly in 2007 walking on that field, and it was so damn cold, and the whole field was like crunchy. And we took a step on it, and there was probably, 10-inch indentation in the grass, and I was like, how are we going to play today? But that's just part of the rivalry. I remember that they were talking about how cold the game in 16 was going to be, and we were on a roll. Needed to win that to keep things going, and that roller coaster of a game, the game in 13, obviously an NFC championship and everything happened down there. Been some fun ones over the years.
Aaron, over the years, you've mentioned moving ahead of the Bears in the all-time series. When that was getting close, that seemed to be important to you. How much does that matter to you and your legacy of where you would rather taking it from where the series record was to where it could be?
I'm just a small part of this journey. It's been over 100 years of playing, and fortunate to have this little time right now to be able to be a starter and to impact the all-time series. Little Green Bay was getting beat up for a long time by our foes to the south. And then Farby showed up, and we closed the gap, and then we've overtaken them. It's nice, but I don't think it's the most important part of the all-time legacy. But it's always a battle against them, and always fun when you can beat them.
Matt called the defensive unit for the Bears, went as far as to say the best that he's seen so far that you guys have played. Do you agree watching film?
Yeah, I mean, they're a great defense. They've always been a solid defense over the years. It's some familiar names who are studs, and Robert Quinn's having a nice season. getting after the quarterback. Obviously, Khalil is still one of the top players in the league. Akeem Hicks, when he's healthy, is as disruptive as he possibly can be. Roquan has emerged as a top-tier linebacker. I mean, he's kind of been in that position since he got in the league, but he's steadily improved every single year. He's a complete linebacker. Back end is very solid. They got some younger players, but they've definitely improved and been playing well. Chicago has always prided themselves on stout defenses, and in the 27 games I've played against them, what kind of day you're going to be in for playing Chicago.
With that said,
feel good you got Jenkins and Myers likely back this week in practice today. Get back at it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think anything is set in stone yet. We'd love for those guys to come back, but I'm proud of the way Lucas and Yash played on Sunday.
with that said about their defense, I won't ask you to name every defender they've had over the last 5 years, but they've had some really great defenses, obviously. Where does this one stack up compared to what this Bears franchise has put on the field in recent history?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think you got to play them first to see how it feels. It's one thing to look at it on film. It's another thing to play them and to feel the physicality and the impact they have on the game. They've had some great defenses over the years, some Hall of Fame players or guys who should be in the Hall of Fame. Guys like Brian and Lance and Peanut and Pep. But even when they didn't have maybe those type of names, they always had great role players, studs who could, push the pocket inside, strong off the edge, solid nickel. It seems like every single year we played them, solid safeties. So they've always played well together, and it's always been a good test for us. I felt like the Bears have had a top 5 defense. I don't know, seems like every time we play them.
Have there been any insights, talking to Joe Barry, playing against that defense in training camp, in regards to Bears, that defense that Fangio's been using, Staley's using? Have you gained anything from doing that, or did you really already understand everything there is?
I don't think you can ever stop learning, Spoon. I think you're always got to look for those little advantages within the schemes. There's a familiarity across the league with coaches coaching together and terminology being similar and similar coaching at certain levels of the defense, whether it's the back end or the linebacking core or the rush lanes or the front dynamics. So Joe and I spent a lot of time, during training camp talking about things that work for them, things that I didn't feel like worked maybe when we played LA last year, or things that were tough for us. And there's a lot of the similarities as far as the back end stuff you've seen across the league with combo coverages, quarters on one side, halves on the other. And so there's a lot to be, I think, learned and understood by playing our defense.
Will that apply this week?
I think so. Yeah, I think anytime you're playing defenses that they want to play some combo coverages, there's similarities in pre-snap things you can look at, post-snap things you can look at, and concepts that you worked on in training camp that could carry over.
You had so much fun last year with Gold Zone and Nathaniel. Matt told us stats are for losers today, but when you look at, he told Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Just like the Cardinals did. But when you look at what you guys have done in the first 5 games there, what our team's doing to you, what do you need to do better, what's going on there?
I mean, I think we can be more aggressive. I think that's the biggest thing. I think last year, we scored an 80% clip, which was crazy. This year we're more down near 50, I believe, in the mid-50s. I think we can, keep being more aggressive in those areas. And it does, more aggressive doesn't mean throw the ball more. It just means we have a ton of scheme down there, and let's keep rolling it off the sheet.
Aaron, I think you guys are 3rd in fewest false starts this year. Is that impressive given how young your O-liners are expected, and what's the process like getting young O-linemen in tune with your voice, your cadence at the line of scrimmage?
You got to test them every day. You got to test them with things that you may not even work on in the game. You got to test them with variants of cadence and always keep them sharp. You can't just go through a practice and go on one the entire time. You got to mix things up every single snap and get them to where it's a natural flow for them mentally, breaking the huddle, diagnosing the play in their mind, but also always very sharp on what the cadence is. And honestly, we had a no play at the end of the first half that Yash, for some reason, jumped off on. So that would have been another one that we didn't have there. So they've been doing a good job with the cadence. But you got to keep them, you got to stress them in practice all the time.
Are those decisions that you make in practice as far as your command of things, or is that something that's scripted in terms of?
No, it ain't scripted. No.
Just wonder, with the release of rude emails from however many years ago, I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on just kind of the workplace culture in the NFL? Have things gotten better, or is there still a lot of work to be done in that regard?
I mean, I think it depends organization to organization. I think in any business there's always, you know, individuals that that might have certain opinions and feelings and ways of conducting themselves that don't resonate with the whole of the group. You know, I feel good about the people that we have here that work here. I think there is, I don't know how you can be in the locker room and be around such a diverse group of individuals and listen and communicate and have relationships with such a diverse group of people and carry any of those sentiments. That's just me personally. I think, you know, we all, I think, like I said, need to leave room for growth for individuals, but at the same time, there's some things that you maybe just can't fix in a short amount of time. You might need some rock bottom moments to get you to a better understanding of your kind of role in this society and need to change and evolve and grow and connect in new and maybe uncomfortable ways for certain people. But I'm a firm believer in listening and communicating with your teammates, with people who don't look like you, people from different backgrounds, people with different opinions than you have. That's the best way to grow. Like I said yesterday, when you surround yourself with people who keep you in a confirmation, who confirm your own biases, who keep you in a quote-unquote echo chamber of thought, there's no room for growth. And I hope we can transcend past that. Hopefully this is a wake-up call for people in general who have similar thoughts. I don't know why you would, but you know, things like this come to light. You know, it's the stuff. I'll be interested to see what happens with the other emails and what's in those, because obviously, if this is released, you know, there might be other stuff in there that might be even more damning than what we're seeing so far.
And what are your recollections? Actually, it's a two-part question. Your recollections of Quentin Dunbar from previous games against him, and is there I don't know, a greater sense of urgency or anything like that when you're down one really good corner, maybe a second for a week or longer?
Yeah, played against Q a number of times. I was teasing with him today, back when he was wearing a number in the 40s. Not too many corners wear, you know, numbers in the 40s. But he started out as wide receiver, so he always had great ball skills. And he could always run. And, you know, I remember him playing really well in Washington against us one of those years. Just a very competitive guy and good ball skills. You had to be smart about certain routes you threw, really outside the numbers, that type of routes. I felt like he was always good at squatting when he needed to on comebacks, and then, you know, being on the hip on go balls. So we got to get him up to speed, see if, you know, he's ready to roll right away. But this has been our lot this year. We're playing with, you know, some backups. Some guys got to step up and play well. We've had a number of starters miss time, and I don't see that ending anytime soon.
Aaron, I don't mean to dig into stats, but last year Devontae and Bobby combined for 29 touchdowns, and this year they have 3. What are teams doing to take them out of the end zone, and is that at all part of the red zone issues?
I think it starts with the red zone. I mean, Tom could probably tell you, but the number of touchdowns that I had in the red zone last year, obviously, many of those went to those 2 guys, and us being at 50 whatever percent compared to 80% last year, there's a number of touchdowns just kind of missing from the stat line there, and I think that's probably the biggest reason.
I remember a Saturday night before a game at Soldier Field, a family that were Bear fans ran into you at dinner or something, and you were nice and signed an autograph, took a picture, and they posted, they said, this guy's a pretty nice guy. So what are those season ticket holders like at Soldier Field with all these games you played? How do Bears fans treat you?
I mean, I don't think they're extremely happy with me. They're not very cordial most of the time, but I respect that. I mean, I respect it's a great sports town. They got two baseball teams, a basketball team that I grew up cheering for. I don't know how it was for you guys, but when I was growing up, one of the few channels we had on TV was WGN. And so you got to watch like Cubs baseball, you know, and some Bulls basketball games for whatever reason. So you naturally became a fan, I think, because I was a big sports fan, and that was the only thing that was on TV. For years, you know, when we played down there, I would, the night before, go on a long walk, and often walk to dinner. Mastro's was where I went to dinner for years and years and years in a row. And on one of those walks, you know, a random mom and son, even though I'm all bundled up, you know, wearing a sweatshirt because freezing and a, you know, winter hat and stuff, they recognized me, and we walked for, I don't know, 4 or 5 blocks together. So that was a nice chance meeting. But I've always, you know, enjoyed the city, enjoyed the fans, even though they haven't really enjoyed me. That's fine. I get it. Maybe there'll be a little more love when my time comes to an end playing here. But I do have a lot of respect for the city and the sports fans they got there.
Could you see yourself ever playing there when your time
No.
comes? Playing here?
No,
Hard no.
it's just not going to happen, man.
Aaron, I think it was during the 19 off season, before the 19 season. I think Devontae had like 169 targets the year before, and Rob asked you, you know, is that, for a guy who likes to throw to the open guy, is that too much? And I'll never forget you said, I'd like to throw to Devontae even more. And you had a perfectly logical, sensible explanation for that. So is there such a thing as targeting the best receiver in football too much? And do you feel good about how much you're getting him the ball, how much you're trying to get him the ball, despite what defenses are trying to do?
I mean, it just depends. If you're forcing the ball into spots, then too often, and maybe you are trying to feed the guy too much. I don't feel like I am. I feel like the targets I've given him, for the most part, are high percentage targets. I don't feel like I'm forcing the ball to him. I maybe hung on him on one of the first 3rd downs a little bit too long in that game and had Allen on the backside open, but I take my chances with 17 just about every snap because he's generally open, and open to him is different than other players. So I don't feel like I'm forcing the ball to him. He gets open, and I like throwing to the open guy.
So he was talking after the game about how you and Matt, and I assume Nathaniel and Getzi and those other guys are in on it too, are basically working to design more ways to get him the ball. I don't want to know what those are, but how much more time are you guys, I mean, are you doing something differently, or does he just have that impression, or what?
I love that he has that impression. I don't know that that's necessarily going on. I mean, I think naturally, anytime the plan comes together, we're thinking about 17 and 33 and how to get them in space. And that's kind of where it often starts. But I don't know. I don't feel like there's any specific things we're doing. It's just naturally it happens in the flow of the creative process of the game plan. And then once we get into the work week, adjusting things slightly if we feel like we need to put him on a certain route or put him on a route that might draw some coverage and open up somebody else.
Aaron, through 5 games, do you guys feel like you played a completely full game, and if not, why?
I feel like we've played pretty good since the first week. I feel like we played, a pretty solid game against Detroit. Played really good against San Fran. Pittsburgh, they, slowed us down in the second half on offense for sure. Cincinnati, it was kind of one of those weird games. We moved the ball on 9 of our last 10 possessions, had chances to score points. So I feel like we've been playing the right way. A couple of tough AFC North opponents. That's how those games usually go. But I feel good about the way we're trending and the things we've accomplished. We're starting to get a little healthier maybe on that side of the ball, and hopefully 1 week away from getting Marquez back. So, good things are coming.
Sarah, we got time for one on Zoom.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh,
Oh, Mr. Rodgers. Last year, in 2020, you guys were hyper efficient on early downs, really staying ahead of the sticks. That has not been the case this season. What do you attribute that to?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at those numbers specifically, but usually that would tell me that we're either not being efficient running the ball on 1st and 10 or not being accurate throwing the ball on 1st and 10. So I'm not exactly sure. I feel like, we didn't have a great day running the football on Sunday, minus Jonesy's, 60-yard outburst. I feel like it was a lot of shorter runs and some 0-yarders and a couple of negative yardage plays. So I think we need to run the ball probably a little bit better on 1st down. And I would have to check the stats as far as the efficiency of the pass game, but I'm sure we're not where we were last year on that either.